Helen, you're here to talk about dysgraphia today,
Indeed.
which is an interesting topic, isn't it?
Mm.
So, tell me about dysgraphia.
Well, it's a funny one because it exists, but it doesn't exist. It's like it's in the like shadows in the UK. I've recently come back from the International Dyslexia Association conference in Atlanta. Dysgraphia was order of the day there. It's very widely accepted. Seems to be very clearly part of the specific learning difficulty landscape in the States. Here it's not. We don't have a working definition formally within
Right.
sort of our diagnostic criteria specialist assessors. There's not, to my knowledge, a sort of diagnostic criteria within the NHS, so it sort of falls by the wayside for occupational therapists and paediatricians. And it's just sort of in the shadows. You can look at the ICD-10, which is part of the World Health Organization's international, no, 11, sorry, International Classification of Diseases, the 11th version, which came out about a year ago. And they talk of a specific learning disability, American terminology, in writing that affects kind of letter formation, organisation. It can hit spelling. Within the recently released Delphi definition and sort of previous dyslexia iterations, it seems to include writing and spelling more strongly in the UK frameworks than it does, mainly the English. Sort of obviously Scotland's got its different versions of dyslexia, which I'm not that familiar with, but it seems to figure more writing in our versions here than it does in sort of American versions of dyslexia, in French versions and stuff. So each country's got their own perspective, and within the UK there are different perspectives across the home nations as well. But dysgraphia just kind of falls between the cracks, which is very frustrating for kids who find writing difficult.
So I was just about to say, so what sort of things would we be looking at if we were looking at dysgraphia?
So you would find that there's often a difficulty around letter formation.
Right.
So the act of writing. So you might get sort of funny pen grips. That's a very technical term. But the sort of ideal pen grip with you kind of beautifully formed, two fingers on a finger and a thumb on the pen, isn't going to happen. You're going to see kids sort of hold it in some quite obscure ways. And or they will press very hard on the paper. They'll wriggle their fingers and move a lot when they're writing. There's an organisational element to it as well that's tricky. So kind of getting your thoughts in order, spelling of words, getting your letters in order. So this is where it's sort of, from the physical act of writing, it looks like elements of DCD, which is developmental coordination disorder, or dyspraxia. And then the kind of spelling things look a bit like bits of dyslexia, which is where it's that kind of space in between.
What one thing would you tell us, Senko, about dysgraphia?
I would say for dysgraphia, look if it's the only element of literacy a kid is struggling with.
Right.
Look at phonics, because I would say if phonics are reasonably sound and students are sort of where you would expect them to be within their profile with reading, have a look at spelling and the act of writing, because if they're sort of a discrete area of difficulty, you've probably got some dysgraphia going on. From the class teacher perspective, again, it's a similar thing. And again, look at how they approach writing tasks. Look at their body language. The Senko's not going to be in the classroom in the same way to see the kind of recoiling when they're talking about writing. If typing is fine, because quite often, if DCD is a thing, typing
is too difficult.
It's difficult. So if typing is okay, but writing is really that specific, very narrow area of challenge, you've probably got some dysgraphia doing. From the parent perspective, it's much the same, because it's actually quite a visible thing in that respect if you know what you're looking for. And does your kid not want to write? Is writing avoided like the plague? Because for some children, you can see with reading, which is a very dyslexic kind of trait, you can see them not want to read. I am that creature. I hate reading. Love writing. My handwriting is like a dog's dinner.
Exactly the same.
But it's the emotionally led kind of response around writing.
So we think, I know it's difficult, but kind of separating it out from dyspraxia then. So dysgraphia, you wouldn't necessarily have the same coordination difficulties. It's more specifically writing.
Absolutely that, which is why it's sort of very difficult to identify, because with dyspraxia or DCD, depending on, and I don't really know why there's two names, I'm not going to lie about that. I'm really struggling to fathom that. There will be a reason, I just don't know it.
Yeah.
But I think
I don't know it either.
No, because DCD has the kind of memory elements that are tricky. Dysgraphia has the memory elements. It's the real purely fine motor skills linked to writing. Whereas if somebody's got a DCD and their fine motor skills, buttons are tricky, knives and forks are tricky, shoelaces can be tricky. So it's a bit broader. It's just that you kind of haven't got the stamina and control of your fingers in the same way. If it's the the larger motor skills, kind of the bigger actions, you'll see kind of core strength won't necessarily be there, proprioception, so your place in space won't be there. There probably won't be the same manifestations in that way.